history about any person that becomes a millionaire, they bankrupt the first three companies, and that's for a reason.
That's for sure.
There is a reason that they bankrupt the first three companies, and the reason is because they got to learn. They got to go through the lumps, and you're going to lose a lot of money. And this is why, a lot of people don't have the stomach. So what will happen is they'll do their first company or maybe the second one, and then, okay, that's it. They'll think they're not cut out for it, or make up some crazy story about themselves, which isn't true. It's totally not true. It's just that they have to keep learning and keep fighting and keep going through it. And so if I look at the most powerful people that I know, the ones that are really impacting the world in a profound way, they're willing to say, I'm accountable for it all. It's on me. And it doesn't mean it's true. It's a power they grant themselves. So only you can grant yourself that power.
Many people today are looking for side hustles, but looking all in the wrong places. When we exchange time for money, that's yesterday's income. People today want to work hard, yes, but also want time and money freedom. But true residual income only comes available in a select few industries that are normally reserved for the uber wealthy. Industries like healthcare, energy, and telecom are the industries that normally where the elite class reside. But what is the secret to accessing these industries? And how can you too profit from the largest industries in the world? And while at the same time being coached and trained by successful entrepreneurs on business building, mindset, leadership, and team success. Well, in today's modern economy, new thinking and new ways of doing business is a must. Now, before we get into all that, I just want to remind you that if you are interested in raising your standards as a father, a husband, and an entrepreneur, then I encourage you to participate in our Band of Brothers group mentorship program. We're a group of ordinary guys working towards living extraordinary lives. And you can find us at the Awakened Man Training Academy at members.theawakenedman.net. And with that, let's go on with today's episode.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Yet the hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve him. It's time to align yourself for greatness. It's time to become a revolutionary man. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome, everyone, to the Revolutionary Man podcast. I'm the founder of the Awakened Man movement and your host, Alan DeMonso. So before we get started, allow me to ask you a couple more questions. What is residual income? And how do you go about building it? Well, those are two interesting questions because for me, they've been a little bit confusing in the past. And so today, my guest is going to reveal to us what that looks like and how he has moved and changed his career and his business path. So allow me to introduce my guest. Franco LoFranco has been an entrepreneur since the age of 22. His parents moved from Italy to Canada at a young age, and they instilled in him a work ethic and a sense of entrepreneurship. Then at the age of 24, he co-founded a company that became one of Canada's first high-speed internet companies in the early 90s. And that grew into one of Canada's fastest growing companies. From there, he expanded into sports and real estate consulting, and eventually into direct sales, where he built a global organization. Now, due to this entrepreneurial success, the Italian government and the president of Italy in 2007 bestowed upon him the title of Sir, or as it is known in Italy as Cavaliere, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, for his entrepreneurial accomplishments. Welcome to the show, Franco. How are things?
Alan, good morning. It's fantastic. Are you kidding me? I'm glad to be on. It's a pleasure and an honor, and I acknowledge you for what you built for the Awakened Man, because I remember when I, as a man, first became awakened and what that meant for me and what that did for my relationship with my father is absolutely huge. So thank you for what you're doing for all men. It's something that we really need, especially in today's society where it seems like the suppression of man is, paramount for some people and some organizations to do. What you're doing is invaluable. So it's just an honor for me to be on here with you.
Well, I really appreciate that. And it's so true. We're working hard towards really having a better understanding of what true masculinity means and to move away from the society idea that anything that is masculine is bad. And so having guests like yourself on today who show what a true man looks like is really the goal of our podcast. So let me start off with my first question here. As you know, we like to talk about being on a hero's quest, where all of us are on our own little hero's journey. So tell us about a particular time in your life where you were challenged and maybe felt lost and knew some things had to change. what did you do during that experience, and how did that shape you into the man that you are today?
How that every day?
Fair enough.
Every day we challenge us. That's, at least for me, it is. It's like everyday learning. But I'll go back to when I was really young. I was in my early 20s. I started my very first company. Didn't know what I was doing. Partnered with a gentleman. We got started in a business. We were doing import export to Mexico. And at the time, everything was going great. But, like, there are always going to be obstacles and challenging times. And up to that point, I've never faced any, right, in the business world. And so I'll never forget, Mexico economy tanked. My business partner left me. I was 22 years old. I had 15 to 20 employees. I had debt. I had money. I had all these things all on my own, money that I owed. I had a gentleman that came in and we bought, he was a native artist painter. And my partner had bought art from him and was hanging in our office, and he never paid him. So I'll never forget this. He comes into my office at 4 p.m. The front receptionist calls me, there's somebody here that wants to get paid. I said, well, join the group. That was so much money now. So he comes in and he does a native Indian sit-in, and he starts chanting and he goes, I'm not leaving until I get paid. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. What do I do? He refused to leave the office. And so all the employees were leaving. They were going home for the day. And I go, I don't have the money, but I don't know what to do for you. He goes, well, then I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay here until you find the money. I'm like, all right, I got to find the money. I just call some of my buddies. Hey, listen, I need $500. I need $600. I need $1,000, whatever. Some of them were really sweet. They came down and I was able to pay him and did that. And it was really crazy. And it became one of my challenges that, hey, when you're faced with stuff, can you overcome things? Can you overcome what's going on? And that did it. So talk about craziness, but that just became a spiral. And the stress that caused and created for me, I don't know if it's good, but it taught me some valuable lessons about business. And one of the things it taught me was structure, putting structure in business and protections in business so that those things don't happen anymore. Because I was young. I didn't even was checking who was signing checks and where the money was going. I had no idea, but those are very important in a business and a company, especially if you're going to have business partners, right? So you learn those lessons very young. I'm glad I learned it then and not now. And then from there you grow and went into other things and learned other businesses, and you get the formula. So you start learning a formula for success in business. And this is why, if you read any history about any person that becomes a millionaire, they bankrupt the first 3 companies, and that's for a reason.
That's for sure.
There is a reason that they bankrupt the first 3 companies. And the reason is because they got to learn. They got to go through the lumps, and you're going to lose a lot of money. And this is why, and a lot of people don't have the stomach. So what will happen is they'll do their first company or maybe the second one and go, okay, that's it. They'll think they're not cut out for it or make up some crazy story about themselves, which isn't true. It's totally not true. It's just that they had to keep learning and keep fighting and keep going through it,
Absolutely. Just making a couple of notes there. It's so true, right? And I think about that, and I've read that as well, about millionaires being, 2.5 times or something at one point was the 3 times the times they go bankrupt before they finally get things figured out.
The average millionaire goes bankrupt 3 times before their finally the company succeeds. And like, how many have the stomach? Because we never hear about their failures. What do you hear about? Their success. That's what you hear about, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I always, what's a famous saying for all people that are successful? Man, I became an overnight success in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because suddenly you hear about them, but where were they? They've been struggling for the last 10 years, working out of their garage or whatever the heck they were doing.
Yeah. Well, and to build anything of lasting value, of anything or any legacy, it takes time. You think about the tallest buildings in the world, most of the work, you don't see anything happening, because they're digging the foundation, they're putting in the piles, they're setting the structure up. And then one day you go by and you go, oh, when did that show up? But all this work is going on. And I think to your point, many people, and this podcast really focused on men, many of us don't have the stomach to go through that. And so I'd like to ask you a little bit more about that. So you're having some challenges in your first business and probably in the next couple. What was that shift of mindset that you needed to do in order to keep going?
On my own, I wouldn't have done it. So I don't think I needed some personal growth and development. I had not up until that point focused on personal growth. I did not have the most pleasant personality, to be honest. In addition to that, I had work to do on myself. I had insecurities. When you don't have any self-awareness, that's why I love the name of the thing, being, a self-aware man. What does that really mean? Mm-hmm. It's about knowing who you are. It's about knowing who you are as a man. What is a man? And what are your accountabilities and responsibilities? And what makes you who you are? And so I took a personal growth course just with men. It was fascinating what I learned about what it is to be a man and also what it is to be a woman. And what are the differences between a man and woman? There are fundamental differences between men and women. And what are those? And I learned that. I'm like, wow. And that's where I really had a big breakthrough with a relationship with my father. And what I learned was that, when I started a company, this was consistent for the first companies I started, I never made myself the president. I made myself the vice president. And I'm like, and in this course, I realized why I did that. I realized that it's because I didn't think I was good enough to be the president, whatever reason. And part of that goes back to my relationship with my father that was not complete. So I had a relationship with my dad where my father was an old Italian man, very loving, but never expressed the love. Like typical of that generation. No different than most people that grew up then, right?
Yeah.
And so he was very hard on me. Like I come back with a 90. Why did you get 95? Why did you get 100? Why? Same stuff from other people. And he worked hard. He was a great man, great provider, but he wasn't the most affectionate in his being with us, myself, my sisters, and that was normal. But I made that mean that there's something, I wasn't good enough or I wasn't worthy enough or whatever I made that mean. And therefore, I took that into my personal life. I took that into my business life because how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
And so I realized that in taking these personal growth courses, I had a big awakening and that, no, and I also realized I had never told my dad I loved him. And the reason was he never told me, so he should be first. He's the dad. Why should I be first? And then I realized that is so dumb. So I'll never forget. I called him. I called my dad and I said, Dad, I got to tell you something. And he said, what? I love you. And my dad goes, okay, what's wrong? Were you arrested? What happened to you? Are you okay? And I go, no, I'm fine. I'm just taking this course. And I realized I never told you I loved you. And I'm sorry. I had this crazy idea that you should tell me first because you're the father. That's so dumb. And I apologize.
Yeah.
And I want you to know I love you. I'm the man I am today because of you. And there was dead silence on the phone.
I can only imagine.
And he says to me, I'm sorry. I go, you're sorry? He goes, what are you sorry for? He goes, I'm sorry I never told you I loved you. My father never told me. I didn't know how to say it. I'm like, wow. It didn't even occur to me. I was doing a generational thing. And who knows? I could have been doing the same thing with my family. Who knows? But in that moment, this is what's interesting. In that moment, I broke that pattern. I broke it. And then I loved telling him I loved him. I loved telling my mom I loved her, right?
Yeah.
And I know my dad still was uncomfortable with saying it. They go, I love you too. It became, but he's never said it, right? It's tough. Yeah. It was tough. But I got to tell you, it had a breakthrough in our relationship and how we related to each other and how we were with each other moving forward. Just in that one moment, I just told him one thing, I love you. Just totally transformed the entire relationship. And man, I wish I would have done that when I was 8 or 9 years old or 10 or whatever, but no, It's okay. Did it in my 20s and it was very, very powerful. But that set me on a different road and all that personal growth. And then I started having success. Ironically, it was like no coincidence. I started another company. We raised $40 million. That's another funny story. Raised $40 million from nothing, literally with no money. And that's how we raised the money to be one of Canada's very first high-speed internet companies back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when we closed the deal, one of the big venture funds out of New York, they're huge. They're one of the biggest ones still. They're huge.
Yeah.
The guy said to me at the end, "Congratulations, Franco. This is great. But you got to know you did something historic." I go, "What did we do that's historic?" He said, "I have never seen a deal from zero money to 40 million. I go, "What do you mean?" I go, we've gone from zero to 500,000 to a million. I slowly build it up and then raise all this money. I have never seen anybody go from zero to 40 million. And here was my first lesson in business. I said to him, "Thank God I didn't know."
Yes.
Because then I probably wouldn't have done it. Because if I would have known that that was not possible, never been done before, I probably would have put a self-limiting belief on myself that I would have to do exactly what you said. And he goes, that's a great lesson. Yeah, it's a great lesson. So for me, what I learned from that was, hey, you can achieve anything, you can dream anything, as long as you're willing to fight for it and go through it. Because I had to go through 1 year of presenting to over 100 companies, of 103 of them saying no before the 104th one said yes.
That's incredible, right? And just I really like that story and how you shaped the idea of limiting belief, and how many times in our lives when we go and do something and then somebody has come up, and maybe it doesn't happen too often. It's not necessarily going from 0 to 40 million, but even just attempting something that you just didn't know any better and it works out. And someone who's been there before, so, tells you that like that's just doesn't happen. And because sometimes when we get that roadmap, and I think that's part of the problem with a lot of guys is that we want to have you talked about having structure in business, completely agree. You need to have structure, SOPs, everything. Otherwise your business is going to flounder. But in life, sometimes I think we're too afraid to take that first step forward until we've got this map completely written out. And I don't know what your experience is working with other people, but are you finding that is also the same thing, that people want so much information, yet they're not taking any action?
I've seen both. So I've seen people that just take action and then have no plan, right? So they're like spinning their wheels, or I'll see that. And they have no experience how to do a business plan or what business is or how to actually create one. But they're God bless them. They love it, but they don't stop for 2 minutes to realize, okay, what is their plan and what are they going to do? And then I've seen what you just said, which is they're all structure, but no action, because they get stuck they become paralyzed in the analysis of their own plan. So I have seen both. So the key is having a balance. You need to have a balance of both. You need to have a plan. It's got to be clear. And you have to be motivated by that plan. What does that mean? That means every day take some action. And every action leads to motivation. The problem with people that get paralyzed by a plan is they're seeking motivation to take action. And it doesn't work that way. That's not how human beings are motivated. Human beings get motivated by creating action, getting a result from that action, and that creates momentum and motivation.
Yes.
And as long as you understand, it's like when you go to the gym, right? Who the heck wants to go to the gym and work out? Especially in the morning. Nobody wants to go do that, right?
Yeah.
But once you're there, you feel good, you come out, your whole day is like totally different out of it. So the action created that momentum and motivation in your life. Business is the same. Anything you do in your life is the same. So you've got to take that action. You can't be afraid. You need a plan that you're following. Great, 100% for sure. And make sure that plan is great. So I have a philosophy that if you have goals that you set and that you're not achieving at least 80% of your goals, then one or two of things is off. Either A, your plan is off. You need to review it. So I always have people review your plan. Like I've got my plan, for example, right here. I keep it with me at all times. I've got a plan for 2023 for all the things I'm doing. And behind this are another 40, 50 pages of material that goes to support my plan for 2023. And so if I can achieve 80% of my plan, that's great. If not, either the plan is off or my work ethic is not where it needs to be. One of those two things is going to be off. And so that's up to me to figure that out. And then I've got accountability partners and coaches that keep me to account for my plan. And so to answer your question, yeah, like there's going to be both sides. You just need to put an accountability team around you to support you and help you, because on our own, good luck. Like you need coaches and mentors and a support structure, whether it's a team of people, like on our team, we have all our leaders that meet once a week to go over our plans to make sure, because what happens to most plans is after January, they go out of existence.
Yes.
And so, like, this is the toughest month for people to execute on their plan is February. This is the toughest month, February and March, because most people will have quit in January.
Yeah. It's so true. I did an article a while back on, actually it wasn't an article, it was a podcast last year on why we shouldn't bother making New Year's resolutions. And the number and the statistics are, outstanding, right? Like you see it that by the third month, you're absolutely right. More than 30 or 40% have fallen off. And by the sixth month, there's just nobody's doing it anymore, virtually. And I think the challenge is that we make a plan, but we want instant gratification. We're so used to getting everything now that we can't overcome that adversity that we face. And that adversity can be as simple as, using the gym analogy. Okay, my alarm went off at 6 o'clock. Get up and go to the gym. It's too cold out. I think I'll stay in bed today. And it's simple little stories like that we tell ourselves and convince ourselves, allow that ego to come in, that prevents us from really achieving things. And so you started to touch on, I think, on some keys of success. And I wanted to know if you could expand a little bit more and you could isolate maybe 5 keys that you use that brought success for you and the people that you work with.
Since we're talking about goal setting, I'll talk about this one first because I think it's very powerful. And I teach my team to think from the future. What do I mean by that? You're always going to face obstacles. So anybody listening to this, let me tell you this. You're going to build a plan. It's not going to go the way you want it to go. 100%. Okay. Guaranteed. If you expect your plan to go the way you said it's going to go, you're delusional. It's not going to happen. Okay. There's going to be things that will interrupt your plan. There'll be things that won't work out. That's normal. That's totally normal. The problem is when that happens, how do you react? So the minute something doesn't go the way according to your plan, are you somebody that goes, oh no, what am I going to do now? Okay. Or what's your reaction going to be? And who are you going to be in that moment? Because the only choice we have when something doesn't go according to our plan is who we're going to be when that happens. So here's what I teach my team. If you think in the present, you will get stressed out, you will panic, and you probably will not have an appropriate response for the obstacle you failed. But if you think from the future, then a solution will become self-evident. What does that mean? So let's say you want to always act like your goal's achieved. It's been done. It's done. Because if you notice, the people that achieve their goals, when they achieve their goals, it's anticlimactic. It's like, it was supposed to happen. Because they've been living from that goal, that result, the whole time. This is why it feels anticlimactic when they achieve it. So here's what I tell my team. Okay, look, something happened, great. Here's the question, or here's what you say to yourself. That was supposed to happen. How did I overcome it? So when you think from the future back, I had a mentor who taught me this. He was amazing. He goes, Franco, this was supposed to happen. How did you deal with it? Oh, how did I deal with it? Okay. So I put myself into the future. It gives me the power versus being a victim to my circumstances in the moment. And so okay, how did I deal with this? What did I say? Who did I talk to? How did I overcome this? Oh, there's the answer. Let's go get it done. And then the solution becomes self-evident. There's no stress. There's just, okay, I got it. And then every time that happens, it's not a laborious effort. It's fun. It's actually, okay, how did I solve this?
Right.
Who was I being that when this happened? And it makes it a fun game versus, oh no, I can't believe this happened. Now what am I going to do? I can't believe this. Why did this happen? This wasn't supposed to happen. No, it was supposed to happen, or it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Right. So and I obviously overcame it because look, I achieved it.
Yes.
Right. So since I achieved it on this date, let me look back and how did I overcome it? And when you can do that, you'll have power, you'll have fun, you'll have solutions that will come to you that before would never have come to you. And that's one of the first things I teach people is always think from the future, but you got to have your goal set.
Yeah.
The problem is if you don't have your goal set, that's not possible.
Yeah.
So you got to be clear on where you're going. You got to be clear on what your direction is. You got to be clear on where you're heading. And if you've got that, and then you can think from the future looking back, there's nothing you can't accomplish. That's the first thing I would say for people to achieve success is to do that. And that works also great when you've got second thing, which is a group of mentors and accountability partners and a team around you and an organization around you to support you and help you. It's very difficult. I find I can't do it. I don't know about you, Alan. I can't without a team around me. I have no hope. I have no left to my own devices. I'll just implode. I'll just, who knows what I'll end up doing, right? I just don't trust myself that way. And it's because I just think most human beings, we're just love to be in the comfort zone. We just love to take the easy way out. We'll like to self-sabotage, become victims. I just think it's a natural state for people. So we need to put ourselves in an environment where, because there's a saying I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have, the environment always wins.
Yes.
You cannot overcome a negative environment. You cannot overcome an environment that wants to keep you down. You have to get yourself out of it and put yourself into an environment that wants you to win. And so that's on you. That's the first thing you got to do. So the first thing I always look for is, can I put myself in an environment that's going to support me and want me to win and want me to succeed? Whatever the cost, you got to put yourself in that environment, because if you don't, you won't.
Yeah.
And that's another part of success is your environment having you win, or is your environment suppressing you? And that goes to your relationships, like with your spouse. That's important. Does your spouse want you to win, or is your spouse fighting you for your own success? Right?
Yeah.
So you got to look at that. Is your spouse supporting you? Saying, yeah, you can do this, championing you. You've got this. Don't worry on those down times. Or is your spouse saying, see, I told you couldn't do this. See, I told you this is bad. See, I told you. Versus, no. How about supporting me and loving me no matter what, and saying, encouraging me? Because one of the things about men that we know, having studied men, is men need that encouragement. We need that touch. We need that physical touch, and we need that encouragement from the people around us. It's important to us. And so that's another aspect to our success.
Absolutely. Just love that. You were talking about goal setting here. So is your belief to write big, hairy, audacious goals, things that are really, really stretch you, or are you more of a stretch type of goal planner?
That's the biggest debate all the time, and the number one question I always ask. And so I'll just tell you what I believe.
Yeah.
It's great to write big, audacious goals. I don't mind that at all. But you also have to have within that very concrete goals and a plan to achieve those goals step by step. Because one thing I see is people have these big, audacious goals, but no plan how to even get there. Right? Well, what's the point of that? Like, tell me what the point of that is. I don't understand. Like, okay, you're a dreamer. Good for you. How are those going to come true now? How are they going to be based in reality? Okay. And so what you want to do then, have a big audacious goal. I have no problem with that. Like, I want to own an island. Okay, cool. Great. What is that island going to cost? I don't know. I said, we'll go find out. And then they find out, it's only $3 million. Cool. It's only $3 million. That's great. Now, how are you going to pay for that? I don't know. Great. Let's create a plan for how. And all of a sudden, that big audacious goal isn't so big and audacious anymore. It's actually doable. Okay, now let's create a plan around that. How are you going to make that $3 million? Okay, we'll set your plan. Here's the business. Here's the revenue. Here's how it works. How many clients do you need? What kind of organization do you need to build? Let's go make that happen. And before you know it, they're on their way, making it, inspired by that goal, whatever that is for themselves. So I'm okay with both, as long as within that. And then within that, you need little steps to success. So you need every day, what's success today look like? What's success tomorrow look like? Because that builds your confidence. You got to be able to have some confidence as you grow, right? Like if you got failure after failure, you only take so much failure after failure after failure before it brings you down. Yeah. So I believe it's also important in your plan that every day you have something that you can achieve, something small. It doesn't have to be big. The 1% rule. Can you get a better 1% today than you were yesterday? Yes. And if you could do that, the momentum you build within 12 months is incredible where you can get to. But some people try to take on way too much, get overwhelmed, and then they stop. And they go back to their old way of being, old habits. And that's the other thing I would say is once you set your goals, if you want to achieve your goals this year, this is very important. Yeah. If you want to achieve your goals this year, based on who you were being last year, that's probably not going to happen because otherwise they would have happened last year. So one thing I tell my team is, what are new habits you're going to take on? What are new ways of being you're going to take on this year that will help you achieve your goal this year versus last year? Because if who you're being is the same person with the same habits, but you got a different goal, usually it's not going to turn out well. Yeah. So what are the habits you're going to be taking on? And the last thing I say to them is, okay, now we've got all that. You got your plan set. You've got what habits you're going to take on, who you're going to be this year. You got your monthly goals, weekly goals, and you got your daily goals. You got your overall goal. What's the theme of the year? So what's the theme of the year? Like, who are you going to be this year? I'm going to be audacious and self-expressed and unstoppable. Great. Or 2023 is the year of unleashing me, whatever that is. Yeah. And then I'll say, okay, now what are you going to sacrifice to make that happen?
Mm-hmm.
What's your sacrifice? Because you're going to have to sacrifice something.
Yeah.
And it's funny. What the number one thing I get that people are going to sacrifice? What do you think is the number one thing? This is so funny that people are going to sacrifice to get their results.
Well, they're going to probably sacrifice watching TV.
Netflix. That's the number one answer I get. I'm going to sacrifice Netflix. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so funny. It's the number one. Probably about 70% would say that to me. I'm like, okay, good. Turn it off. Cancel the subscription. What can I tell you? It was too funny.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show where the mindset is, right? But that's the first thing that comes up. I'm going to cancel TV or Netflix because obviously they're not committed to it. And some of the work that we do here at the Awakened Man, we take one of the programs we offer is a Hero's Quest. It's a 90-day intensive program where we really dive into challenging them on their values and beliefs, helping them break through that. But once they go through this integrity challenge and these pieces, the idea is to help really break them down. And then they make goals. And some of the questions in the goals matrix is, what are you going to do to commit towards this? What are you going to give up? And what do you have to change about yourself, and who and what resources or who are you going to reach out for? And similar to what you're saying here is that I think I really like your point about if you're going to base this year's goals on the last year, on who you were last year, then you might as well not even write the goal, because we have to change and evolve. And we need to have the courage to have that reflection to say, you know what, I'm really not that committed to my health. And then that was my big goal for this year, is that from an intellectual and a spiritual perspective, I'm really big on, growing myself that way. But if I was really truthful and I stand in the mirror, I haven't been as committed to taking care of my body. So 2023 is all about maximizing that aspect of it. Everything else falls into place for me, but truly it's about focusing on that. And so what does that mean? Well, I was get a gym membership, right? Starting to eat better, count my calories, stop nibbling at night, because that's my go-to. Oh, it's 9:30. I think it's time for a snack.
What's your go-to snack? Do you have one?
Yeah, my go-to snack. I'm a salty guy, so my go-to is roasted pistachios. And
pistachios, interesting.
So pistachios are not they're good for you, but probably not 200 of them or 400 grams.
The chili roasted ones. The chili roasted ones, those are good.
Yeah. So, but it's just these little things. And if, to your point earlier, right, when we can be self-aware, then we can recognize where we can change. And there's a big difference between being self-aware and self-conscious. Self-conscious to me means you're in victim mode, but being self-aware, you're giving yourself that opportunity to kind of be that observer of yourself and say, hey, you know what, there's some habits Al can change here. And I think, what you're teaching your team is totally that idea of, still getting out of that victim mindset, but having the idea and the fortitude that, yeah, there's things that I can change. I don't have to change it all at once, but I can change one thing.
Yeah, the 1% rule. Like, if you could just get better every day by 1%, that's what I truly believe that. Like, you don't have to be like, I think, what's that old saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? It's 100% true. And so when you're building a business or whatever you're working on, your health, your spiritual life, your personal growth and development, your finances, whatever that is, it's important that, I don't have to do it all today. Just a little bit. What can I improve 1% today? But that compounded over a year is huge. People have no idea that 1%. There's a lot of books written on the 1% rule today. I highly recommend looking them up and reading them because, and they'll all tell you the same thing, which is if you just learn 1% per day of something new or implement something new into that area you want to improve, within a year, you won't even recognize yourself or that area.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Now, I kind of teased everybody a little bit about, getting into this, where the elites, make money and earn income. And we talked about healthcare. And so I wanted to talk today a little bit about what you're seeing in the challenges in today's healthcare industry and how you've been able to hack into that.
That's a great question. So it's different between Canada and the US. So right now I'm in the US, and Canada's got its own challenges, which is, we're going to pay for everything, but it'll be not the greatest service in the world, right? That's an understatement, I know. So that's one model, right? And the US model is you got to pay through the nose. Well, how do you pay through the nose? And then if you don't have it, oh well. Again, right now, I don't know if you know this, in the US, it's the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is healthcare. The number one cause of ruining your credit is healthcare. It's really sad what's happening in the United States right now. Right now I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was born and raised in Toronto, as you know. Yeah. And now for the cold, I couldn't take it anymore. So now I'm in where's the hottest place I could find? Arizona. But it was like a shock to come down here and see the price you've got to pay for healthcare. And that's called centralized healthcare. So how centralized healthcare works is you pay a monthly, like car insurance in Canada, right? Yeah. Pay a monthly premium. There's a deductible. Deductible here are insane. 5,000, 10,000, whatever the heck it may be. And then you've got, other costs added to that. But the insurance companies are not really for you. They're for profit, that's their whole point. Like I was reading, if you look at, I was looking at about 10 or 12 insurance companies over the last decade. Their CEO average compensation over the last decade was between, just for the CEO, $350 to $400 million in compensation.
Wow.
One person. So where's a person's money really going? So I got a chance now to work with an incredible company that there's a whole industry down here called health sharing, which is pretty great. And health sharing started with Christian churches 30, 40 years ago, where it became member-based, peer-to-peer. And people are now familiar with member-based and peer-to-peer because thanks to what's happening with blockchain and crypto and all other stuff, and finance is becoming decentralized. It's becoming the way of the future where we become empowered with our own money. And so we were able to launch a decentralized healthcare platform with advanced patented technology that imagine this, you put money into an account, and then when every member does the same. And then, so let's say something happens to you, Alan, and you need money. Yeah. Great. There's an AI, a patented technology that knows how much you take from each member to pay that. That's pretty cool. So what's the advantage of that? Well, the advantage of that is lower cost, full transparency. You can see where all the money goes. Yeah. It's a nonprofit. So because it's a nonprofit, there's no profitability, like there's none of that funny business going along.
Right.
They pay on average hospitals and doctors within 10 days. That's what their average is, which is crazy. When an insurance company may take months and months and months. I've got a doctor retired, still waiting a year, 2 years later, waiting to get paid on clients that he had, on claims that they had to pay him. So, it's been incredibly for members, it's been a breath of fresh air. Sure. They get their own health card. It's been working really, really great. And then we gave members an opportunity to get paid residual income on that. So we do zero marketing, zero advertising. And when you take that out of the game, out of the component, and you allow people then to take advantage of that and earn residual income on that, people love it. So we become like, if the product's great, it's literally sell and sell. And so they're able to go out there and promote this to families, individuals, and businesses. And that's where we're really doing some great things, which are with companies, because companies, it's probably one of their number one expenses is companies, what they're paying. It's unbelievable. And so we're helping them as well save a bunch of money. So that's residual income. So whenever you've got a service, this goes back to what you said at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
Whenever you've got a service that's residual in nature, whether subscription-based, or company or customers paying every single month in services, that's the kind of stuff you want to get into. Because if you ever want to achieve any kind of financial independence, I'll call it that, you need income that's recurring. You need income where you did the work once for that work and it keeps paying you. The problem is our educational system teaches us otherwise.
Yes.
It teaches us to exchange time for money.
Yeah.
And that's because the people that build these companies need employees.
Yes.
Versus, okay, how can I step back? And I learned this from the internet business. So when I built I didn't know, I didn't learn this either. But when I built my first internet company, I realized, oh, I get customers and the income is recurring. So they'll pay their internet bill over and oh, I go, this is the greatest way to get paid. And the greatest multiples when you want to go sell the company. I go, this is awesome. Investors love that. So even investors are looking for what? Recurring revenue income models. Absolutely. And so you've got to be able to understand that that's the best kind of businesses to get into. And the industries that are the best are energy, for sure, right? Whether it's gas, electricity, telecommunications, healthcare, all those industries, but they're hard to get into. They're hard to participate in because typically you need a lot of money. You got to be like a Warren Buffett type person to participate in those industries. They're not easy.
Yeah.
And so I work with a company that created a platform. They invested $1 gazillion that allows the average person to participate and get paid on those industries and make residual income and do that and access those industries that normally belong to people that are uber wealthy. And so, and I figured this out when I had my internet company. Okay, that's what I want to get into.
Yeah.
And today, let's talk about the modern economy. What are people looking for in the modern economy?
Yep.
They don't want a regular job anymore. It's not what they want, right? They don't want to just make their company rich or their boss rich or any of that anymore. And they want to be able to look, if I built something and I make money, great, but I want that money that keeps coming into me. I don't want it to stop because I stopped working. Those days are dead.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of companies now they're going to have to find robots to do that labor work because people are not going to want to do it. And you can see companies are doing that out of being forced to do it, not because they necessarily wanted to.
Yeah.
And so all that's happening right now in the modern economy. People are learning. Okay, there's better ways to make money. And if you could do it virtually, hey, even better. If I could do it anywhere in the world, I could do it while I'm traveling, while I'm having fun, even better. So people are looking for opportunities where it's virtual, where it's kind of their own thing. They can do it on their own time, on their own hours. And they're all looking now. They're getting smarter. We want a residual income to our revenue. It can't be just exchanging time for money. And so when you start looking for those components, you'll find them. There's lots of opportunities out there, but you got to find them. You got to know how to access them. And then put yourself in an environment where you'll be coached properly. There's a lot of opportunities out there that, to be honest, I think are scams, to be honest. Horrible coaching, horrible accountability, horrible environment. You want an environment where you're celebrated for your achievements, saying, great job, congratulations, excellent work, and that you've got accountability around you to help you.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds awesome. And I think that is totally where the new economy is going. And I think that's what is ultimately going to happen anyways, just with the rate of technology and people looking to change the lifestyle. And I think if there's one thing that we've learned through this pandemic piece is that, that people are looking for something different. And while there's still many of us still struggling, lots of people still struggling with the mental health aspect of what happened, there are also many that are recognizing that it's just the work that I was doing just isn't fulfilling. And if it wasn't fulfilling before, it really was brought to the surface over the last few years.
And I'll tell you something else, Alan, which is really cool. Technology today has allowed us that when you get involved in an opportunity, it's cool if you can even scale it worldwide. Yeah. So one of the things it's done is shrink the world, right? Mm-hmm. So like, for example, I've built an organization in countries all over the world. And what's cool about that is you get to deal with different cultures, different languages. It's kind of fun, right? And it's a blast versus just like, I'm born and raised in Canada. Great. And one of the advantages of being in Canada, by the way, is you deal with different cultures. Canada is one of the most multicultural countries in the world. So for me, when my business started to naturally, organically grow outside of Canada, it wasn't that hard because I'm used to dealing with all these cultures and people from Canada, from all over the world. It's kind of fun. But people are looking for that. They're looking for scalability. They're looking for an ability to, like, if they want to make a lot of money, they should be able to, if they're hungry enough and want that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you, Franco. I think that is that if you have the desire, you just need to find the right vehicle. And I think today the old economy was going to a job and working for a fixed income, because basically that's what it is for many people. There's only so many people that are going to climb that corporate ladder. There's only so many positions. Why not start something or get involved in something that allows you to expand who you are as an individual, but also the possibilities for yourself and your family?
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, it was real estate for people, which is fine. But now we see what's happening with the price of real estate and interest rates. And it's not always the most doable thing. Nah, I'm not saying don't invest in real estate 100%. If you can have something physical, a physical asset like that, take your money that you're making and put it in that 100% wise decision.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be your go-to now there's so many options that we've got access to. Learn them and master them, and also be patient.
Yes.
You know, this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. I mean, when I first got involved in some of these industries, I wasn't very good. I had to learn. I had to learn how to build an organization, how to scale an organization. How do you grow an organization and then have it grow without you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that we want is not only do we have recurring residual income, but then can you also build an organization of people that doesn't need you in the future because you've trained them in such a way from a leadership perspective that on their own now they're able to thrive and be successful. And that's another thing. And that's on us. That's completely on you to study that and study leadership. Like I think I must have read every John Maxwell book on leadership. Like whatever comes up, I try to read every single day on leadership. I think it's important because you always want to become a better leader and better person every day, the next day than you were the day before.
Completely agree with that. Completely agree. You know, of everything that we've spoken about today, and maybe there was something that we didn't talk about, what would be the one takeaway you'd want our listeners to have?
Look, at the end of the day, it is up. Think about this. You have the power to accomplish whatever you want. You really do. Okay. And I always tell people, since you have the power, the only way that power gets realized is if you're willing to be accountable for your life. Because what I've realized and learned is the more you're willing to be accountable for your life in every area of your life, the more power you're going to have. The more you're going to be a victim to your life and a victim to your circumstance, the less power you're going to have. And so if I look at the most powerful people that I know, the ones that are really impacting the world in a profound way, they're willing to say, I'm accountable for it all. It's on me. And it doesn't mean it's true. It's a power they grant themselves. So only you can grant yourself that power. And so they grant themselves that power. Why? It gives them power to impact it. Not because necessarily it's true. It's a way or a perspective of looking at life. And so I always say to people, look, you want to be powerful in life, you want to achieve results in life, you want to have a satisfying life, a fulfilling life, then be willing to be accountable for every area of your life, not just the ones that are convenient or work out. No, even the ones that don't work out. So it's like, it's on me. But whatever happened, it's on me. I did that. Okay, good. Now, how can I impact that? If you want, you don't have to. It's a choice. It's a place to stand and a place to look.
Love it. Love it. I just want to say thank you so much, Franco, for spending time with me today. You know, we were able to unpack quite a bit, and I think we've left some great breadcrumbs for people to be able to figure out how they can build residual income in any industry, and just also thinking about how they can shift their mindset from what they're doing today to how they can truly live a more fulfilling life. So if people are interested in getting involved with your work and getting in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn. You're more than welcome. Franco LoFranco on LinkedIn, Caf Franco on Instagram. You're more than welcome. Happy to reach out. And I'm happy to even look, if you've got some plans for your own business and you need some advice on that, I'm always happy to help. I love watching. Here's what I love. I love watching entrepreneurs succeed. I love it. It's one of my favorite things, like a high for me. I love when people put a plan together and doing that. So if you need any support with that, just let me know. And I'm happy to support.
Right on. Well, I'm going to make sure all that information's in the show notes for today's episode. Once again, thank you so much, my friend, for being on the show.
Thanks, Atlanta. Thanks for what you do. It's very important that you keep doing it.
Thank you for listening to the Revolutionary Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is the Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.